There's a new sheriff in town, it seems. Following their performances at UFC 287 and UFC 288 respectively, it does seem as though there's a changing of the guard happening in MMA. And not just in terms of Israel Adesanya recapturing his middleweight title with a decisive knockout of Alex Pereira, and not even simply due to Henry Cejudo's failure to take back the belt he never officially lost with a win over Aljamain Sterling. Izzy's on the up, Cejudo's on the slide. Just maybe not for the reasons you might think. But let's backtrack a moment and take a dive into the creation of the character that would define and in some ways overshadow most of Henry Cejudo's prime years in the octagon. Triple C, the King of Cringe, the one who makes them all bend the knee. And just in case you didn't realize it, the man has an Olympic gold medal too. Who'd have thought it? It was a character born out of a similar place that brought us the Colby Covington heel turn, but with a different end product. In his quest for reaching heights that extend beyond UFC gold, Cejudo crafted a persona that became known as Triple C, a character that he developed to elevate his status in the sport. And let's make one thing very clear. It worked an absolute treat. With his self-proclaimed moniker as the King of Cringe, Cejudo was able to play the media, manipulate fan emotions, and garner attention.
On May 9th, Triple C is going to be serving gold.
Even though many despised his gimmick during the years between 2018 and his retirement in 2020. The birth of Triple C came after his rough night out against the divisional GOAT Demetrius Johnson. The first fight between the two, one that saw Cejudo absolutely destroyed in the first round for a TKO defeat. Feeling the need to stand out in a crowded division and capture the attention of fans and media alike, Cejudo embraced a bold and brash personality. He dressed flashier, spoke a little louder, made every possible attempt to draw attention to his Olympic gold medal, and basically did whatever he could to make the MMA fan base cringe. Because if they were cringing, at least they were listening.
Bantamweights, they can all bend the knee to Triple C. That's what I think.
Cejudo's transformation into Triple C was deliberate and calculated. He knew that to transcend the sport and become a larger-than-life figure, he needed to make an indelible mark on the MMA landscape. Through his character, he aimed to polarize fans, evoke strong emotions, and create memorable moments. During this period, Cejudo embraced a style of promotion that many found ridiculous. He would don outlandish attire, including oversized sunglasses, a robe, and a crown, all while flaunting his accomplishments. He engaged in trash-talking and theatrical antics, calling out other fighters and adopting a bombastic approach to pre-fight hype. He once pulled a snake out of a hat just to take a shot at TJ Dillashaw. It all bordered on childish, but unlike Israel Adesanya, Henry Cejudo is very clearly in on the joke, but we'll get to him later. The response from fans and media to Cejudo's antics was mixed, to say the least. Some were captivated by Cejudo's audaciousness and appreciated the entertainment value he brought to the sport.
Dead man walking. I cannot allow the UFC to have somebody that looks like Mr. Clean and talks like Michael Jackson.
Others, however, were turned off by what they perceived as forced and artificial behavior, dubbing him the King of Cringe in a somewhat derogatory manner. But regardless of the polarizing nature of his character, Cejudo's approach yielded results. He captured the attention of fans, generated buzz around his fights, and managed to secure high-profile matchups. His battles with TJ Dillashaw and Marlon Moraes showcased his skills inside the octagon. But it was his ability to captivate the audience outside of it that truly set him apart. And that Moraes fight, in particular, did a great job at legitimizing Henry in the eyes of the masses. Cejudo's strategy as Triple C reached its peak when he faced Dominic Cruz in May 2020. But again, inside the cage, he proved his worth, defeating Cruz with a dominant TKO victory. It was a validation of his skills as an athlete, a testament to his ability to perform under pressure, and a clear message to his detractors that he was more than just a gimmick. And just like that, at the peak of his powers, he called it a day and bowed out of the sport. Then, during his time out of the cage, something very bizarre started to happen. The fans, even those who had despised everything about his gimmick in the past, actually started to respect this man. From his work as a coach to some of of the sport's biggest names to his ever-growing presence as an MMA YouTuber. It all really helped to get the public on Henry's side. And all of a sudden, people started to understand where he was coming from. With an opponent like Aljamain Sterling set up for his comeback fight, it was very, very easy for the public to get behind Henry. And on fight night, Aljo, the New York native, got a far less positive reception from that New Jersey crowd than the returning former champ Cejudo. The fight was very close, of course, but when the decision went against him, Cejudo didn't try to cut a promo or keep the King of Cringe bit going. No, he was honest, he was emotional, and he was pretty confused and vulnerable on that stage. It's clear that Henry is no longer quite as divisive as he used to be, and he doesn't quite rub people up the wrong way as much with what he says. But do you want to know who does fit that billing? The middleweight champion of the world, Israel Adesanya. And like we said before, the dude is just not in on the joke. This guy is without question the cringiest champion of his era. It's not just the terrible one-liners, frozen like Elsa, or his incredibly childish demeanor when someone takes a shot at him, even if that someone is Alex Pereira's young child. But the dude's demeanor is just so unnatural. Like he needs to constantly be making some form of cool motion or pose. He's just way too aware of when he's on camera.
If you win this fight, when we fight, I knock you out, I'm gonna do a TikTok dance over your grave.
And it comes off as so corny and rehearsed. And for this video, as you might have guessed, we'd like to make the argument that he has officially replaced Henry Cejudo as MMA's King of Cringe. Who else would make an enemy of a 12-year-old kid on an event watched by millions? Who else would ever celebrate over a TKO'd Paulo Costa like that? And remember the incident with his dog? This man is light years ahead of Cejudo in every criteria imaginable. Again, Henry is in on the joke. Adesanya, let's face it, is a bit of a weirdo. Agree or disagree? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section below. But let's dig a little deeper. Israel Adesanya, the UFC middleweight champion, has undoubtedly made a name for himself as one of the most talented fighters in the sport. However, while his skills in the octagon are undeniable, his off-camera behavior and public persona have often left a bitter taste in the mouths of any fans who are wary enough to pick up on it. Adesanya's post-fight celebrations have often crossed the line from eccentric to cringeworthy. One notable instance was his aforementioned UFC 253 victory over Paulo Costa, where he mimicked a sexual act in the direction of his fallen opponent. While trash-talking and provocative gestures are not uncommon in combat sports, Adesanya's actions that night were viewed by many as disrespectful, distasteful, and downright strange. And we'll bring it up once again. Only Israel Adesanya would ever take such obvious shots at a 12-year-old boy when he just watched his dad get KO'd stiff. Maybe Sean Strickland was right about Israel when he called him a child himself.
Cartoons, bro. No man that beats off the cartoons is gonna beat me.
Bro, trust me.
Beyond these specific incidents, Adesanya's general demeanor and the way he carries himself on camera often come across as contrived and fake. It's clear that he is acutely aware of the camera's presence and takes calculated steps to manipulate his image. Flashy and flamboyant outfits are one thing, but the posturing, the flexing, every movement that led up to his carefully crafted sound bites, Adesanya gives the impression of being more interested in cultivating a certain image rather than genuinely expressing himself. One can argue that Adesanya's behavior is a deliberate attempt to generate attention and create controversy, thus increasing his marketability. However, this approach has had the unintended consequence of alienating a significant portion of the fan base. Many longtime MMA enthusiasts value authenticity and respect, and Adesanya's antics have failed to resonate with this demographic. And we'd argue that he's losing old fans just as fast as he picks up new ones. While some fighters are able to balance their larger-than-life personas with genuine humility and respect for their opponents, Adesanya's attempts at creating a memorable character have often overshadowed his abilities as a fighter. And if you stop and think about it, that's kind of what happened with Henry Cejudo to a certain degree in his prime. The man was a two-weight world champion and a genuinely excellent fighter, but most people were mainly aware of him for reasons that extended beyond the world of fighting. Adesanya gets quite a lot of credit for his work inside the cage, but his ability to drive traffic due to his uniquely cringy persona is starting to truly take effect. Cejudo might have coined the phrase, but in our eyes, there's very clearly a new King of Cringe presiding over the world of MMA. And while guys like Colby Covington, Cejudo, and even Paulo Costa are very clearly in the discussion, Izzy wins the overall award because of just how naturally it all comes to him. Those other guys we mentioned play their character with a subtle nudge and a wink to the audience.
All the other steroids he did in his career. You brought that addict with you, George? Did you bring that druggie?
Adesanya is just being himself and seems to think that everyone buys it. Look, say what you want. Frozen Like Elsa is the single worst tragic piece of trash talking since Don't Fear Me, Fear the Consequences. And
this time when I put you on skates, I'm gonna leave you frozen like Elsa.
To be honest, at least that one was coming from the heart. We can't take anything away from Izzy the fighter. The man is just an absolute master of his craft. But sit this guy opposite a fighter like Robert Whittaker next time, and you might just begin to see a change in the tides with the level of support that exists for Izzy. He's the champion, yes, but the King of Cringe crown sits firmly on his head. And by the looks of things, none of his fellow superstars in MMA have anything close to the type of cringe mastery needed to challenge him anytime soon. Did you enjoy this video? If you did, kindly like and subscribe to our channel so we can bring you more intriguing UFC videos like this. Until next time, do take care and do not forget to stay tuned for more great content.